All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our virtual plant clinic this afternoon. I am just going to take a few minutes while everybody's getting logged in to go over some notes for anyone who might be new. I'm Sally, and today we have with us Pam Powers, who is our guest instructor for the day with David. And I just want to let everybody know quickly as well, Kristen McKenzie is online with us as well. This is probably my last webinar hosting until the end of the summer because I'll be going on maternity leave sometime in the next month or so. So for those of you who haven't met Kristen, she's on today and she'll be taking over hosting webinars. For anyone who is new and this is your first webinar, welcome. You will ask questions today by using the Q&A box. We can't actually speak to you during the program, so you'll click the Q&A button, type your questions in, and we'll be taking questions throughout the class as Pam and David let us know they're ready for questions. Please also feel free to send any notes to the chat. I'm opening that up for you all now. And I'd be happy to assist you if you all need any help with anything like on the technical side. All right, so with that, quick note, we are recording as well. I almost forgot to mention that. So if you need to leave early for any reason, you can access this on our YouTube channel probably tomorrow around lunchtime. And I think that's it on my end. David, I'm going to let you get started, introduce Pam for everybody who doesn't know Pam, and have at it.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Happy to be back on air with everybody. Took when I say a break, not really just a break from being on these Zooms because it's so busy during the spring season. And we had a fabulous spring, all that nice, cool, wet weather we had in May. Yeah, treating us real good. And then, of course, today it's here comes summer.
Yes.
We're all there.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it is. Well, so it's really great to talk to everybody today, and we're discussing roses, which is a huge topic. And I enjoy roses. I've grown them, but it doesn't take long before I'm kind of out of my depth. This is such a big field. So when I get kind of out of my depth, which happens quickly, I turn to help to my good friend and master rosarian, Pam Powers.
Thank you.
And so Pam is kind of running the show today. I'm just her sidekick here. I'm kind of leaning on Pam to guide us through the beautiful, wonderful world of roses, the kind of the options that are out there, and what we can do to keep them looking really nice through the summer. But maybe before we jump into that, how did you get into this? Get specialized and kind of end up going down this wormhole of roses?
It is a wormhole. Well, you know, my mother grew roses, and she used to take me to rose shows that were up the street. She used to drag me. This is when I was a little girl, and then the tables turned when I moved to Centerville as an adult. I came to a rose show right here at Fair Oaks. And I said, I want to slam the table. I want to grow roses like that. And it's been that way for a long time. I'd say 35 plus years. Yeah, but I got turned on to roses in my adult life by visiting a rose show right here at Fair Oaks.
Fantastic, small world.
Yeah.
And of course, because you can get really obsessed with it like you do, and then you're into the shows and competitions. But I think for so many gardeners, it's just that to me, roses are going to give you that continuous color. Everybody loves just the color and the beauty. And there's no other shrub that I can think of, no other woody landscape plant that's going to give you that kind of continuous flowering. Everything else gets a bloom season, but roses just
keep going. Yes. And the part of my role is to help people move past perhaps treating roses like an annual. You know, they get their blooms in the spring, and then something goes wrong, and they're a little bit timid. So your roses should bloom between May to mid-November. And so that's what we're all about, is setting yourself up for success in growing roses.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I'm just going to let you kind
of
give us a rundown on how we achieve that.
Okay, good. So let's just go to a slide here. So the topic today, as David said, And thank you so much for having me as Summer Care. And this is a photo from Lewis Ginter, a botanical garden down in Richmond, when it's springtime blooms. But just a little information about Arlington Rose Foundation that I've led for the past decade and a half and been a member of for 35 years or so. We're an educational, not-for-profit rose organization. We serve Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Southern Maryland. So don't let the Arlington part fool you. Just like Arlington has grown, now we're the greater metro area. We have two. And we have close to 270 some members in the Southern Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia area. We serve as consultants, advisor for the Bonaire Memorial Rose Garden in Arlington. It's our founding garden. And also I serve as curator for Columbia Gardens Memorial Rose Garden in Arlington, Virginia. Our website, if you'd like to learn a little more about our organization, is arlingtonrose.org. Very easy to remember. And contacting me is through ARF, Arlington Rose Foundation, information at AOL.com. Yeah. And our website is being redone. It's an old-timey one. And so it's getting a new look, and it will be a new look by the end of the year.
Well, of course I see, and I think I grew up in Arlington when I was a little boy, so I was down at Bonaire all the time,
yes.
You know, soccer practice and all that.
Yeah.
And grew up with that rose garden, you know, right there around me the whole time.
Well, the neat thing is, so Arlington Rose Foundation was founded by Nellie Vorhill. And the Vorhill name is very popular in Arlington because her husband developed most of Arlington post-World War II. And she was a philanthropist and started the garden by taking up donations from citizens and businesses. She would collect 50 cents from citizens, and then most businesses would donate $1. And that's how the Rose Garden got underway. And she persevered, and it took like 4 or 5 years to get the garden going. And it was at the old hospital, it was at the former hospital there. And then 12 years later, it was moved to the current site, and it's managed by the Arlington Parks and Rec. And we advise them on the care of the garden.
Yeah, it absolutely is a great place if even if you're not growing roses, to go enjoy them.
Yes.
And see all the different colors and types that are out there.
Yes.
And there are many.
Yeah. Okay. So today's agenda, summertime care for roses, and then your questions. We'll kind of take a halftime break and address your questions kind of midway through and also at the end. So again, as Sally advises, you want to type in your questions and then she'll communicate them to David and myself. If you go back to the slide, that beautiful rose, that is Nicole, and that's in all its glory. And look at the green foliage on that. And that's what we want all year round. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to start with this because we've had a very rainy May. And roses, they love the rainfall. The blooms, not so much. But it's great for the rose bushes. But what happens is with the rain on these heavy petaled roses, they will get spotted. They'll get red dots on them. But in severe cases, the blooms fail to open fully. And they get this mottled look. And it's actually a petal fungus called botrytis. And those blooms aren't going to open, and they're just going to harbor disease. So before rain, and it's kept me very, very busy this year, if I have blooms that are getting ready to to open, or they're quarter open or halfway open, I'll go out and cut. I'll make a beautiful arrangement for my house or for a neighbor, rather than let them get waterlogged. And this is a function of the rainfall going in between the petals and then sitting there. And sometimes I go out and shake it out, and that way it'll dry. But we've had back-to-back rains, and so that makes it a little extra hard. And so in some gardens, you'll see this botrytis. And what you want to do is always have good ventilation, your proper spacing between your rose bushes. And then you can either cover, which is a little bit of extra work, but if you have some blooms that you don't want to be affected and it's not time to cut them, you can actually cover them. You can cover with umbrella or newspaper sleeve or plastic bag, or you can cut like I do and enjoy before the rain. And you want good ground sanitation. You don't want something like this to fester and then the petals fall to the ground, because that's going to create this fungus cycle. And that's what we have in the rain.
I was thinking, of course, we see this with pansies, petunias, geraniums, and all that. And you are at the mercy of the weather. So it's like, that's why I was thinking, that gardeners are interesting people. If it doesn't rain, we complain. If it does rain, we complain. That's just the nature of gardening with the weather. But like you're saying, we often just have to devote the time to go and clean up the damage afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's just damaging the flowers. This doesn't
Yes.
really kill plants. Or
Yeah,
it's just a part of gardening.
It is. It doesn't kill plant. Gives it an unsightly look, just for a few minutes, but you just go cut it out, or you cut it before and
That's the
enjoy.
really thing, as you learn by experience, it's like, hey, you're paying attention to the weather. You
Yes.
see your roses out there not quite open. It's
Yeah.
like, go get them now before the rain.
Yeah. And there's a lot of this botrytis just based on the weather that we've had.
Not a problem right now, though.
No.
No, now the weather's shifted, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things, David, and all the plant clinic specialists, people come in all day long, and they present with plant material and what's wrong with this. And sawfly larvae affects rose bushes. It skeletonizes leaves. And I know there's sawfly larvae on other plants, right?
Oh, they're on hibiscus right now.
Yeah.
That's probably what we're seeing
Yeah,
out there.
the most
Everything, creeping Jenny, pine trees.
Oh.
Different species. So when we say sawfly, it means the adult is a little wasp.
Right.
A little harmless, non-stinging wasp, but it's not a caterpillar. It's just this little, looks like a caterpillar, just going to develop into that little wasp.
Right. Well, and we call them rose slugs as well, but they're sawfly larvae. I think rose slugs is probably just the slang for it. The good news is the treatment is very, very easy. So some of us will bring in beneficials like lace wings, and they are a good balance to their beneficial insect that will eradicate most of your sawfly larvae. And also, if you have, some people will do their herb garden near their rose garden, or they segment it. They have a little yarrow. The yarrow keeps these beneficials in check, in play, and it helps to combat this very problem. These overwinter. So if you do get them, along with everything, you want to be sure to get ahead of it. When you see this, don't let it go for 2 weeks, because it'll skeletonize all your leaves. You can also pull out a little, I have it here. This is a spinosad. You can pull out a little spinosad. It's an organic. It'll take care of those sawfly larvae. You can use it on the bushes affected, or the bush affected and the neighboring bushes, and you'll have good control. Don't let sawfly larvae be a pain.
I found the biggest challenge with this is that they feed on the bottom of the leaf. It's not even so
Yes,
You can use,
you can't
it's
see
not so
it.
much what you use, you can use insecticidal soap, spinosad,
Right.
you know, basically any kind of rose and flower spray.
Right.
But the problem is, we gotta try to get under the
Yes.
leaf is the challenge with that.
Yes, that's a good point, David. They are on the underside of the leaves. And most people would just inspect the top and say, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
But if you can turn that leaf and you can actually see it. So this is the skeletonizing from the underside of the leaf. So you do have to be
But they're
specific.
so well camouflaged, you could be staring at it and still not see it.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
But that's probably our number one most common pest that we've been seeing for the past 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and they have been bad this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I want to talk just a little bit about midge, and this is a kind of a public service announcement. So rose midge affects just roses, and it's very tricky because people rose growers will go out and you can't see it, but what you see are the effects of midge. You either get this burnt match look that's on my left, or you get this bud that has a bent neck. And if you look on the underside of that bent neck, it's where the midge tried to ruin the bud, but they weren't mature enough or weren't aggressive enough to do so. But it's the beginning of a problem in the garden. And midge actually came to this area, DC, Maryland, in Ohio, in force, a major infestation, and it came from the Midwest, probably about 15 years ago. And I personally treated and helped rose growers with over 100 gardens that were affected by midge, and they really didn't know what it was, but they knew they didn't have any blooms. And so you can imagine someone with 100 rose bushes and looking out, and it's, you know, at the end of May and not having a bloom in sight. And so I'll say, okay, let's go around and see, do we have buds? Because you have to have buds before you have blooms. And we don't. We have matchsticks or bent necks. So the treatment for this is to cut it out and bag it and tie the bag, because this tiny little insect has crawled up, it's a sorrel dwelling insect. It's crawled up the cane. It's laid eggs, and you can't see this. It's laid eggs, and then the larvae start feeding on that succulent part of the bush, the tip where the bud is, the emerging bud is. And then they pupate and they fall to the ground, and the cycle just repeats. And they don't fly very far, so they hang around the rose garden, and the cycle repeats incredibly fast, like every 12 to 16 days. So this is why it's important to get ahead of it and not let it become an infestation. I know people have called me and they say, I keep feeding and feeding and feeding, and I still don't have any bloom. So this is when the correct diagnosis is really important. And the one product that will take care of this problem, that will kill the midge, is the Bio-Advanced Insect Complete granulars, and we put that around the drip line, and it will kill it. Now we've tried some beneficials in the soil, and today, they work well if you have plants in a pot, and they can attack the midge. But we haven't had a lot of success in smaller gardens, and controlling the midge. eradicating the midge. But this one product, Bio-Advanced Insect Killer Complete, will take care of it. But it has to be repeated because the cycle of blooms with roses, spring, summer, fall, and sometimes we get a bonus season because now it's warmer, the season starts earlier, it ends later. So sometimes we get spring, summer, fall blooms, and we get a bonus bloom towards the end of October.
Yeah, I remember I was completely unaware of this till you brought it to my attention, and I think the thing is because you don't see any of this going on.
Yes.
You just, all you find is like, I don't have roses, but if you're trying to diagnose this or look,
Right.
you don't actually find the little pest, and it's like, so I appreciate you sharing all that with me because, you know, now that I'm aware of it, it's like, oh, I know what's going on, though I've never actually seen a rose midge, but I've seen the damage.
Yes, yes. It's it's really sad seeing, you know, a garden with 150 rose bushes and then completely affected by midge. Yeah. So, but if you can get ahead of it, you can control it much better. And the Bio-Advanced Insect Killer Complete is the way to go.
Thanks for your public service announcement. Yes.
So I hope people on the call don't have midge, but if you do get it and you see it on one of your rose bushes, you want to act very quickly to prevent the spread. Okay. Hot weather, spider mites, and spider mites aren't just a rose problem.
Oh, yeah, of course, they're generalists, you know, we've seen everything, vegetables to trees and shrubs and flowers thing, but you're right.
Lilacs.
Haven't had a whole lot of it, but again, we've had the cool, wet weather, and it's the hot, dry that's
Yeah.
gonna bring these things on.
Yes, exactly. And particularly if you have rose bushes that are against a brick wall or against a stone wall, that's where it's going to strike first. And I always know that there's spider mites around because I can see, you can see spider mites. They show up as little.
You can see them, don't talk for me. I can't-
Well,
I need magnification, but
they show up as little orange dots on my brick porch. And I said, whoops, okay, spider mites, they're lurking. And they get you, if you can see in this photo, there's webbing between the leaf sets. And there's another test you can do. So if your leaves start looking a little grayish, or it looks like something is sapping the juice out of the leaves, you look closely and you can see that webbing. And or you can put a piece of white paper under the leaf set and you can do tap, 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 and then you'll see them crawling around on the white paper. So what I do, because I hate spider mites, all right? So what most people will do is go for a miticide. A miticide kills mites, right? So I try to avoid that. And I water wand the undersides of the leaves in hot weather. And I may do this twice a week. And this is water wanding is very forceful. It's like I put my thumb over the end of the hose, so it's extremely forceful, and I'm right up against those leaf sets. And I can do like 130 roses probably in 45 minutes to an hour because I just roll through it very, very quickly, and it keeps the mites away. And this is what I recommend that you do. You're not watering your plant, you're actually washing it. And you're washing mites away. And what it does, it prevents them from colonizing or drowns them. So, and mites are, again, on the underside of the leaves and in between the leaf sets. So it's important to get under the leaves. The other way you can treat them, if you have, more than, one or two bushes, or you can get neem and you can treat the underside of the bush, and the neem will suffocate the spider mites. And then there are miticides, and there are two miticides that are very effective. One is Lucent, and it has a translaminar effect, and people like that because what it means is that you don't have to be particular about getting the underside, because it's actually going to penetrate the dermis and get to the mites. And then a floramite, and that kills all stages. And usually that takes care of the mite problem. But I like to talk about the prevention, because there are nothing that will make a bush uglier than spider mites. So, wash them or use a little bit of neem. And if it's a real problem and an infestation that's kind of gone too long, you do need to resort to a miticide. Okay. Black spot. Do you have a lot of people bringing in examples of black spot?
Not too much of it this year, and I think, I'm sure we'll get to this, but gardening, in our weather, we go through all these seasons. The thing is, I always say, oh, everybody is just out enjoying life and having a wonderful time in April and May, and life is grand.
Yes.
But as the temperatures start to heat up,
yes,
and if we get kind of this combination of moisture and warm temperatures, that starts to bring a lot of diseases into the thing. Exactly. So we're at that point, and that's again, we're at the plant clinic. Again, my role is we deal with a lot of these issues. Nobody goes into this because it's not always the fun part of gardening, but there's a cycle that goes.
Yes.
And as you build experience and knowledge, you'll kind of see that happen. So we're talking now at this perfect timing. We're stepping into this time, and you are 100% correct. These things, they're pretty easy to manage as a preventative thing.
Yes.
It's when it gets out of control, it gets a little discouraging.
Yes. So black spot prevention, there's so black spot is a fungus, and it's caused by fungus spores that have germinated. And in order to germinate, it will be on the rose bush for 6 to 8 hours and not drying out. So rain or even your own irrigation, if you have spray irrigation, for example, and it comes on at 2 a.m. and the sun doesn't pass through that particular area until 11, well, then you've allowed fungus spores to germinate on your rose leaves. And so you don't need that added stress. And so black spot, now they're developing varieties that are a bit more fungus resistance. When they say disease-free roses, what they're talking about is they're more fungus resistance, but nothing is ever completely immune. All right. So you have to set up, cultural conditions. So managing your irrigation is important. And then you can actually prevent black spot. Like if you have oldie goldie roses that are more susceptible to black spot, there's a combination of fungicides that are extremely effective. And Honor Guard and Dithane combined, or Infuse and Mancozeb combined. Infuse is a retail product, and it's a systemic. And then Mancozeb is your contact fungicide. And when you combine them and you use them on a frequency of 10 to 14 days, you'll have a black spot free garden. And I always throw in a kicker, anytime you use a liquid disease treatment, if you have a little spreader sticker for better coverage, that helps a lot. It makes what you're treating, makes it stick and be a little more even coverage. But that's how you treat black spot. If you see black spot, you want to take off the leaves, and it may affect, the bottom leaves. You definitely want to take it off and then bag it. Sanitation is real important in the rose garden. Just like you don't want botrytis, those petals falling on the ground. You don't want the black spot leaves falling on the ground. But black spot can defoliate a plant if you let it. And fungicides are I would say the least invasive disease treatment. I use and take care of my roses because I have a lot of oldie goldie roses that need the prevention. And I enjoy, earthworms, frogs, assassin bugs, pirate bugs, all that in my garden. So I find that, the fear of using, some fungicides on a routine basis is simply helpful.
Now, I think
Pam, can you explain what a spreader sticker is?
Pardon?
Can you explain what a spreader sticker is? We had a question about what that is.
Sure. And then if there are some other questions, now's a good time to kind of take a look at those. A spreader sticker is simply a product that you add in to a disease treatment, and it just helps with coverage. Old-timey spreader sticker, people used to put in a couple of drops of Dawn dish detergent, but this is a professional spreader sticker that you can buy in most retail stores. And you just add it to your disease treatment, and it helps with the coverage.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
And
it.
it helps it stay on longer as well.
Okay.
We won't take any questions you might
Yes.
have, but I'm gonna get my own question in
Yeah.
first. So I think, I know at one time, and I'm hoping the answer is still do, I think the Rose Foundation had sort of lists of recommended roses or ones that might show better disease resistance in our
Yes,
climate and that type of thing.
uh-huh.
So if you're talking about newer varieties and
Yes.
disease resistance, you would be, the Rose Foundation to contact for that information?
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Because I know there's also the National American Rose Society, but I've
Yeah.
always preferred to get, gardening's such a local
Yes, it
event
is.
with our
Yeah.
weather and soils
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, and this is an important point. Some of the new varieties that are coming out, they're more fungus resistant. But again, you have to set them up for success. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, okay, we have a lot of questions coming in. So, Pam, I'm just gonna run this by you. We have questions about the topics you've discussed. We also have some things coming in about deadheading, summer pruning, that kind of thing. So, with your permission, I'll address the questions about the like black spot and those types of things first. And then if you want to, we can continue on with the other questions, or we can hold those for later.
So if there are questions, let's go ahead and hear.
Yeah.
Okay. First question, for midge, how much bio-advanced insect killer granules do you use? Are there instructions on that, or do you have recommendations?
So you want to treat about in the drip line. It's pretty specific in the drip line. And again, if you have an infestation or just a minor problem that's popped up, okay, that's the difference. So I would say if you have a minor problem that's just popped up and not an infestation, you would want to put down about 2 ounces around the drip line, and the product is activated by watering it in. If you have an infestation that has gone on for a while, you'll need to use probably around 4 ounces per plant around the drip line.
Okay. That leads to our next question. How often would you treat for midge?
Pardon?
How often do you treat for midge?
For midge?
Yes.
So generally, before the bud set. So I know most of us, it usually twice a year. And I caveat that with, if you treat if you treat in the fall, you generally do not have to treat in the spring. But having said that, I treat spring, summer, and then I evaluate for the fall.
Okay.
Some people would automatically do it 3 times a year if they've been plagued with midge.
Okay.
But generally twice a year, and sometimes 3 times a year.
Okay. All right. Next question. Will copper fungicide help for black spot?
Not really. That's been my experience. And copper fungicide has great value on powdery mildew, which is a slide that we'll talk about coming up. It has the best ingredients to help control or to defeat powdery mildew. It's not going to do a lot for black spot.
Okay. All right. So powdery mildew, not black spot. Let's see here. Can you apply several different treatments at the same time? If you're dealing with multiple issues, I suppose.
I think you want to know the problem that you're trying to treat. And maybe if you had a little more specificity around the question.
Well, I was gonna say, some of these things I think really do need to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, yes.
Because it's always, it depends, is kind of an answer that goes there.
Yeah, it does.
I will say, because sometimes that gives us better results, there are combination products, like if I talk about
Yes.
like the rose shield that's
Right.
there. Some of these rose sprays are specifically designed for this and come pre-mixed in
Right.
the sense that that's generally the route I'm gonna go with it.
Yes.
But you can dig deeper into that, and the answer is, it depends.
Yeah.
So maybe bring all your problems to the clinic or to
Right,
Pam
you
and
talk to us
let
at
them
the
make
clinic, and if
recommendations.
we don't know, we go to Pam, and if she doesn't know, we keep digging till we get you the
Yeah.
right answer.
Yeah. So it also depends. I find I will give different advice to growers who grow 1, 2, or 3 rose bushes, okay, versus 150. Because my answer is going to be much different, because there is a convenience factor, all right, and an efficiency factor, a lifestyle factor, a preference factor in that answer.
Okay. Okay.
That's
all right.
why I prefer we just consult with you and get what works for you. Exactly. Literally, it's an individual situation.
Yes, exactly.
Like many things in gardening. All right, so we have some questions on pruning, some rose recommendations. Do you want to talk about those, or would you like to move on and come back?
About rose recommendations?
Well, like, because summer care is
Like
way more in these pests. Do you want to start talking about deadheading, pruning, watering, and all that now, or do you want to finish up on some of the pest issues?
Well, we have with us today. We can talk.
I'd rather just kind of go this way. I don't care if we see all your slides or not.
Yeah.
No offense. We're just, it's what you,
Sure.
what our viewers
Well,
want.
the rose question we have a question if there's any shade tolerant, disease resistant roses, and then if there are any rose climbers that can be placed in pots and grown in pots.
So you're talking about disease resistant
Well, the
disease resistant.
shade
Yeah,
tolerant was like one that I'm like, ooh, shade tolerant and disease. I think
yeah.
it's a
If
bigger.
y'all know, if not,
But let's talk about
Yeah,
as far as summer care, because we do want to talk about, hey, the continuous flowering, how much they bloom and
Right.
stuff, but how can we
yeah.
make
So-
that happen?
So this is Dick Clark. You can see it's a prolific bloomer. It's a grandiflora. It is somewhat on the disease resistance scale. So it's a beautiful, beautiful rose. And you can see the shiny foliage. Um, this one, I'm gonna come back to the other part of your question. This one needs to be deadheaded a little bit. So I get a lot of questions on how to deadhead.
And exactly what deadheading is
Yeah,
versus like,
deadheading is different from pruning. Deadheading is a continual process. And so obviously this is a spent bloom. And so you for this to regrow and rebloom, we want to remove this.
yeah, let me bring this down just a
Yeah.
little bit so
You
we
want-
can
Okay,
see
can you
everything.
see it? Okay, so I'm gonna cut to right above a 5-leaf set there, and I've cut about that much off. It's important not to deadhead like that, because then you're gonna have spindly growth. You see how spindly that is there? It's much thicker here. And so you just go down and you cut at a slight angle, and then to a bud eye. Bud eye is hidden in a leaf set. And so here, I'm just gonna cut here, and this is an outside bud eye and leaf set. So I'm actually doing the bush a favor by removing the spent blooms. And remember, these can get botrytis, so we want to deadhead. We want to keep up with their deadheading. And also we're shaping the bush at the same time. So I'm cutting to an outside leaf set. So I shaped that. I've got some stuff going on here. This needs deadheading. Now this is a little spray. So I'm gonna do a slightly deeper cut. It's gonna grow this way. So I'm shaping as I go. I've got one on the back side. So that will give you an idea. You want the rose bush to have leaves because the photosynthesis takes place, right, in the leaves. So that's why you want to keep the leaves healthy in the first place, not riddled with black spot or powdery mildew, but and also you want to keep deadheading so the next rose will grow.
is this your, because we had a question about from someone who said, I don't think I pruned my hybrid teas hard enough. Can I continue to prune them back in the summer? So is this kind of the maximum amount of pruning you would recommend?
Yeah, so
Yes, that's back, or you want to
yeah,
use.
let's look at that.
So that's exactly what I was talking about, pruning versus deadheading.
Yeah.
Seasons.
So, yeah, you want to do your spring pruning in spring, March, April timeframe in this area. And you want to keep up with your deadheading. However, pruning is about dead, disease, dying, crossing, and spindling. If whenever you see dead on a rose bush, you're going to cut it off. It serves no purpose, right? And dying, you want to cut underneath the dying to stop the dieback. And anything spindly, you want to get out, right? And crossing as well, because you want good air circulation. So you, to address those elements, you can do that anytime. But this is about summer care deadheading. If a bush got by you, and it's got dead on it, yes, you want to go ahead and take out the dead because no good is going to come from that.
Well, this is exactly the question I was thinking of, so I'm glad I'm fine. So you get a plant, maybe it's for whatever reasons, it's neglected and it didn't
Right.
get cleaned up this spring, you just
Right.
inherited a new
Right.
home. And it's like neglected and everything's going on. If I'm hearing you, I think, hey, we'd rather do kind of this renewal maybe in
Right.
spring,
Right.
but if real life is, hey, it's there now, you're okay, we might as well go do it now.
Yeah, and when it gets hot, that and you do pruning that was missed, and I've done this before because people have called me. They're gonna have a big celebration, in fall, and they have a row of knockouts or whatever, and they weren't pruned and they have a lot of diseases going on. And they weren't to get the knockouts in shape for the celebration. I've absolutely done a number on them in hot weather, in 95-degree weather. But the bushes, they will sulk. And instead of getting new blooms in 6 weeks, it takes about 8 weeks or 8.5 weeks. But when it comes back, it roars back. But they're gonna sulk for the summer if you do that.
That's right.
So be aware.
Try to,
Okay.
they're really vigorous plants, so
Yes.
almost indestructible.
Yes,
but so-
yes.
So yeah, we're talking about trying to
Right.
maintain them so we don't get in that situation and deadheading, keep them blooming and look good. But if you get behind, they're
Yeah.
pretty forgiving plants.
Yeah. So I want to circle back to some of the more disease resistant, okay? And that
Actually, really quick before I forget, can you say the name of that rose that you were deadheading? What was it called?
Dick Clark.
Dick Clark. Okay.
Yeah, Dick Clark.
Everybody
I'll
knows.
type that in for everybody who's
Right?
asking.
Well, maybe
Everybody
that.
gotten that old.
Yeah, I think so. And one thing you'll notice, and I'm seeing it occur. So the blooms in hot weather, and that's what we're talking about, summer care, they will be a little smaller than your April blooms and your fall blooms. There's nothing like fall roses, nothing like fall roses. And so they may even be missing a row of petals because they mature very quickly and they may open up, like popcorn because of the hot weather. So you're going to get smaller blooms. So usually the blooms on this bush are much bigger, much larger.
And again, one of our viewers had asked, well, a couple. One was roses potentially both disease resistant and somewhat shade tolerant, and the other question was about growing in containers.
Yeah. So shade tolerant roses are a full sun plant. Okay. Now, there are some, and I'd say they're few and far between, that can be planted in shade. So full sun is minimum 6 hours. They like a lot of sun. I mean, the more sun, the better. And believe it or not, they like heat. Okay. But shade, what happens is you can plant them in the shade, and yes, they will grow, and yes, they'll produce leaves, but you will have a few growing problems. One is powdery mildew, because you need the right conditions to ward off powdery mildew. And so those bushes in the shade will be a little more susceptible to powdery mildew. The other thing is they will get a little bit leggy because they're looking for the sun. They know it's out there and they're just looking. So they will be leggy. They will not be as prolific. They will have blooms, but just not as prolific. What does better in the shade, and I'll give you this tip, and it's very logical if you think about it. If you have a long stem rose, this is Queen Elizabeth. This is an oldie, and you can see the long stems on this, and it has sprays, a heavy petal, at least I'd say 30 or 35 petals. this would not do well in the shade. Long stem, heavy petal. Something that would do better in the shade is something, a short stem and fewer petals, right? Because rose bushes are about energy. Energy comes from the sun. And so a single knockout, a shrub rose that's maybe has 5 petals or maybe has 10 petals and a short stem is going to need less energy to push out than something like a David Austin rose that has 100 petals and has a long stem. It needs a lot of energy to push out. So think of it like that. But and then just select carefully. Typically, there are better plants for a shady environment.
Any comments about growing in containers, growing them in pots?
Yeah, I would, growing in pots, you absolutely can do. Make sure it's a big pot, at least a 10-gallon container. And just choose wisely. You don't want to plant a climber in a pot because they get deep roots. They have a tap root. So the roots are an indicator of what's going on above is also going on below. And so climbers aren't great for pots because of the root system. But you want to choose something that's proportional, from a design or aesthetic effect. So a lot of some shrubs make, good for potted plants or nice floribundas. Some roses more on the smaller size, but yeah, a lot of people. I know someone that grows roses. They have 300 rose bushes, and they're all grown in pots. It's a lot of work because you have to keep up with your watering.
That's why I was gonna say, I was going, because you can do it, but I would say,
Yes.
you're elevated, you're outground, you have a limited soil volume,
Yes.
so all extremes, both temperature and moisture
Yes,
is amplified when you're.
it's
So you can
it's
do
more
it,
work.
but it depends on you.
Yes.
The gardeners, the plants
Yes.
just much more dependent on you.
Yes, but it can be successfully done. And again, you choose right. And you have to keep in mind that nutrients leach from pots quicker than they do something in ground. So you have to water more often and feed more often so that those roots are being cared for.
Yes. So our time is going by fast. Do you want to show slides or take more questions or?
Yeah, let's go to the next slide because there was a question around powdery mildew, and that has been particularly bad this year. And go ahead.
Yeah, it showed up early.
Yes, it did. It showed up early. And powdery mildew with crinkly leaves, white powder, it affects new growth. Okay. And if you cut out at first sight or at first start, when you see it, and it affects that new growth, and this will help prevent the spread. So that's always the first step. And powdery mildew, it's not just about roses.
Oh no, again, that's everywhere. And I keep saying, this is life in Virginia. People get tired of me doing it, but it's a function of temperature and, oddly enough, humidity. Mildew doesn't need a wet leaf surface.
No, not
just
at all.
needs humidity.
Yes.
And that's one thing we specialize in around here.
Yes.
So this just kind of goes with the territory.
And also there's kind of a powdery mildew season. It's shoulder seasons when spring is turning to summer, and then when summer is turning to fall. And you get these big temperature swings, like an 80-degree day and a 35-degree night or a 40-degree night, where you have these wild temperature swings. That's a sign, you can almost feel it, that, oh my gosh, this is prime powdery mildew weather. And so I don't did we have any copper fungicide?
I didn't bring
No.
it.
Oh, a
but,
copper fungicide can be effective, and you only have to treat the new growth. I'll see people treating their entire bush for powdery mildew. You're trying to, and copper fungicide is an organic product, you're actually trying to trick, if you will, the pH of the new growth. So powdery mildew is going to be present. Our roses, they do their best when the pH of the soil is 6.25 to 7. But if you have an older variety, we were talking about Tropicana, for example, very powdery mildew prone.
Yeah, old varieties, because that's when I used to grow.
Yeah,
Right.
okay,
back then,
okay.
Right.
So that's
Really
powdery-
dating us, right?
powdery mildew prone, but if you know that, then you can get ahead of the season and you can start applying copper fungicide so it doesn't get powdery mildew. So, and you apply just on the new growth. So it's very, very quick, and you can keep that powdery mildew away because it actually, there is quote a season for powdery mildew.
Right, and that's true whether you're talking about roses or cucumbers. So again, it's good. I appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing this because I'm thinking like we're seeing these same issues come in
Yes.
now, even like in vegetable beds, perennials and stuff,
Yeah.
shrubs. So
Yeah.
so it's good to share those tips.
yeah, there are other ways you can trick powdery mildew. So powdery mildew likes that pH on the upper bracket. They like they will adhere, the spores will adhere to that new growth if the pH is buffed near a 7 or even higher. That's when they will grab on to your plant. So you can actually trick the new growth. I've even used like mere acid, which is
Yeah, fertilizer, right?
it's a fertilizer. I'll get a little spray bottle and because I have some old varieties. And so I'll spray that and actually trick the top portion of my bush and no powdery mildew.
Right,
I learned
excellent.
that a long time ago. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
So what's next? What else do you have for us?
Yeah, let's see. So thrips are they may have come in your garden and you didn't even know it. And thrips are the roses down at the bottom on left and right. It's the same bloom. If you can believe that, that's the number a thrip will do on it. And they're little insects that get in the bloom, and they have antennae. And so they're scraping the dermis of a petal, and they're making it deformed or brown. And there's a great way to treat these the thrips, and the difference it makes in 24 hours is incredible. One of my friends was saying, I can't even stand to go out in my garden because my light colored roses are brown. Okay, it just thrips. And so you can treat with a little spinosad. And what you're doing is you're misting the blooms. Or you're taking, if you have horrible thrips, you want to take a little orthene and just gently mist the blooms. That's it, not the bush, the blooms. And the droplets will fall in, and your bushes literally will clear up in 24 hours. So, you can also use sticky cards, and that's a little different. You can put sticky cards kind of even to the growth on top of your rose bush, and then the thrips will go to the sticky cards. I think y'all have sticky
Yes,
cards.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which basically a glue trap there, I think, with thrips. I can't remember if they go for the blue ones or the yellow ones.
Blue
Just
or
trying to
yellow,
blue.
yeah.
And they go flying like a moth to a flame. And
Yes.
they get, stuck there.
instead of going to your rose bushes. So there are lots of ways you can attack and David and I both practice integrated pest management. So we always start with the least invasive to the environment. First, that's the first step approach. Then we go to another approach. And then if you have an infestation, then you take a chemical route.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned earlier, if I just say, we really like to talk to you one-on-one because so much just depends on your lifestyle habits, surroundings, what your acceptance level is. All these things play into making those
Exactly.
decisions.
What else do you have in your garden? Yeah, that's very important. Okay.
So we normally allow about an hour for our plant clinic, but we have you here as a guest, so I'm going to invite you to stick around a little bit longer if we can. But I
Okay.
do want to make sure
Sure.
kind of talk about some of our viewers.
Okay.
Yeah, I can just give a quick announcement for anybody who needs to leave. Just a reminder, we have the recording and it will be available in about 24 hours on YouTube. So if you need to leave, you don't have to miss the rest. You can catch it tomorrow.
Okay,
All right, go ahead. Just needed to let everybody know.
So there are certain tonics, I call them tonics, that you can use in your garden, and particularly in summertime, where maybe you feel that your garden is sulking a little bit. Microbes are wonderful for your plants. And this particular plant, this is a rambler. It's called Kiskade. It was planted 3 years ago. And with microbes, I use microbes on this 3 times a year, and also with planting. And this is a once bloomer. It's like 30 feet by 40 foot, and it's grown that. It's very, very healthy. So microbes are really, really good for your soil. David and I were talking, and if you take care of your soil is going to take care of your plant. So
Yeah, absolutely. We're always on this program talking about the soil biology that is a living, thriving ecosystem, and that's what supports living, thriving, healthy plants.
Yes, so microbes are very, very important with roses. And I use microbes from planting and then spring, summer, fall.
And to me, that basically more to us keeping organic content in the soil. So you can buy supplements like I brought this in just for show and tell.
Right.
But I think if you keep replenishing the organic content in the soil, you just keep that ecosystem flowing.
That's it. It's very, very important. Okay. Next slide. So, or you can use humic acid. It's kind of a weird name, but humic acid replenishes your soil. It's made from living and decayed plant and animal materials that's mined in specific parts of the U.S. It's called humic acid, and it just provides a little nutritional and beneficial value to your soil. And in kind of towards the end of the summer, I give my plants a little alfalfa tea, and I use alfalfa pellets, put it in a burlap bag, and usually 5 pounds of alfalfa pellets in a big old trash can, that's usually 30 gallon, and I let it sit for about a week. It's extremely smelly, but then I give each of my plants like a half gallon of that while holding my nose. And the value of the alfalfa tea, the alfalfa has a little growth hormone in it. And so it really helps fortify the roses for that fall bloom.
You really love your roses. If you're willing to do that, that's
make tea for my roses.
That's a bit of a reach for me, but I
wash them as well.
I respect to you for that, right?
So you want to join me at my house for a little spot of tea?
No, I think I've just made my mind up on that. Yeah.
So also a little iron and Epsom salts. Now I always look for a soil test before I put down additional nutrients, but I find that towards the end of the summer or after a vigorous blooming cycle, iron, the bush will tell me, I'm getting a little anemic. I need a tiny bit of iron. And that helps to green the leaves. It takes them from pea green to dark green. And a little Epsom salts, not a full mill, but like an ounce per gallon, also helps for kind of a summertime pick-me-up. So these are some different tonics that can be used in summer.
Yeah, again, I don't want you to feel like you're required to do this. This is like because we love our gardens and our plants and
Yes,
wanna,
yes.
this is how you get into the
Yes.
roses like what you're seeing here.
Yes,
Right.
and this is how you maintain your garden for, for those fall blooms. A lot of people will live for their spring blooms. Out there in 100-degree heat, thinking about fall blooms because it's the summer care that create the beautiful fall blooms. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so just some information. I'd love for you to become a member of Arlington Rose Foundation if you're a casual rose grower or a serious rose grower. We have a hands-on plant clinic where we talked about washing bushes. Well, we wash bushes there. Where we talk about any kind of treatment. So we identify, we diagnose, and we treat. So it's very much a hands-on clinic. And it's at St. Agnes Catholic Church in Arlington. And then Sunday, we do a rose auction here. So we'll have some of those more disease-resistant roses and fragrance and a lot of some oldie goldie roses as well. And that's our annual tradition that we do. And it's a lot of fun because you bid on the bushes. So. And then Wednesday, November 5th, we have a digital photography contest for members of American Rose Society. That's a lot of fun. And I do a lot of teaching on photography. It's another rose passion, but rose photography is awesome. Plant photography is. And then Sunday, December 14th, we have a holiday brunch. So I hope you do become a member. You can go online. And for new members, we offer a garden side consultation. So if you're having problems with your roses or you have a great garden and you just want to boost or ask questions, we have consulting rosarians that will come and do a garden side visit and help you out with your garden.
Thanks. Well, Pam, that's fantastic. There's tons of good information in there. I'm going back to Sally to say that, if we have time, if we have more questions, or do we need to wrap things up now?
Well, if you all are good, we can go for, say, about 10 more minutes and take whatever questions we have. I will go ahead and let everybody know we probably have more questions than we can get to in that amount of time. So, Pam, what's the best way if people want to follow up? People can always follow up with us, the store, by calling us. You can hit reply on your Eventbrite email. That goes to me. I will give it to Pam or David. But Pam, is there a good way to reach the Rose Foundation if people want to reach out?
Yeah. So ARF information at AOL.com. You're welcome to shoot me a message. I'm glad to help you.
Perfect.
Or in the questions that we didn't get to, Sally, if you send those to me, I'll be glad to write up a response tonight and then send them back to you. And then maybe you could distribute that to attendees. Is that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I will say some of you all are listed as anonymous, so I can't answer your question unless I have your name and your email address. So feel free to email me, hit reply. All right, and we'll dive into some of these. We'll go for about a few more minutes. We'll go to 3:15. So we've had a couple of questions come in, two main categories we've had multiple people ask about. One is roses being eaten by deer. Is there anything people can do who have deer eating their roses?
Deer, roses and deer. Any words of wisdom?
Yeah. that, I teach a course on that, and I know
Oh,
Dave.
I was gonna
I
say,
know-
did they leave you speechless? Is
And I know
that's the
David
response?
does too, and it's about an hour course. So there's no, unless you can address it in a minute.
No, I mean, it's a big topic. At the end of the day, most people end up going towards repellents.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, liquid fence and Bob-X have been two of the best, but it's a bit of an issue too, because now if you want roses to bring into the house, but they smell like repellent, there's a lot of complications that go with it.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my specific program, with anyone if I understand, your situation. I'm working with two new members now who their big issue were deer, because they had herds living two doors down or one door down, and they're both in the country. And the program is working like a charm. They've enjoyed blooms for the first time in decades, is what they've told me.
It's clearly a myth that because it has thorns, they won't eat it.
Oh.
I get tired of hearing that one sometimes.
Oh, they love roses and hostas particularly.
Yeah,
But-
we had someone say my plant has tons of thorns and it's not doing anything to deter them. Okay.
But there are different techniques
Yeah.
to address deer.
Okay. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay, the other question we got a couple people asking about is summer fertilizer. Do you recommend applying fertilizer in the summer? And if so, what?
Fertilizing in summer, yes, no, and what?
Oh, definitely. You definitely want to fertilize. I use all year long organic fertilizers. This is rose tone. It's a blend of different organics. And I use, this is granular, and I use this generally spring and fall. Not this particular product, but I use a different organic. But I think using organics are important because it feeds the soil and it helps the microbial activity in the soil. So, but then in summer, I will use fish emulsion, which is an organic product. And I use that in the summer because generally you have to water. And so you add it to your water routine, and that's helpful.
Okay.
And then I do my alfalfa tea and tonics and other things. But this is organic spring and fall, and then usually a liquid during the summer. But there's so many different fertilizing routines. It's always good to know what's in your soil right now, so you can know how to start your garden and how you can care for your garden throughout the year. So I'm a big believer in knowing, in having a soil test done, so I know what I need to put in the soil throughout the year.
I'm just gonna add real quickly, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about this in just broad general terms, not just roses. You don't want to fertilize a drought stressed plant, but I think exactly like Plan was just mentioning. I'm totally okay with fertilizing in the summer if we're also managing the water.
Yes.
Exactly. So we
Yes.
didn't really go into watering, and I don't think we have the time, but watering is I said 1, 2, and 3 on your plant care list.
Right.
And we overlook that so many times.
And summer care is very important because it's the water that delivers the nutrients to the plant. And I mean, just real quickly, just very quick rule of thumb, when it's 60, 70 degrees, you want to water your rose plants 4 gallons a week if nature doesn't provide. All right, so that's twice a week, and it's deep watering, it's not shallow watering. And then when the temperature increases to 90 or 100, you want to increase that to 3 times a week. Because you do not want to do anything to a drought stress plant,
Right.
whether it's roses or whatever, but you do need to keep up with your soil amendments, but only in conjunction with your watering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're at 3:15. So for everybody who has questions, again, remember you can always follow up with us. I can help you get in touch with Pam or David. I sent the email out for Pam's email for the Arlington Rose Foundation into the chat. And Pam, I will follow up and send you a list of these questions so we can address
Yeah.
those.
Email me anytime, and if you send me a list of questions tonight, I'm happy to answer them.
Perfect. All righty. So I may send out, we don't usually send emails after the plant clinic, everybody, but I might send an email out tomorrow, depending on how many questions there are to answer. I might send one out, well, tomorrow or Monday, Pam, whenever you're able to get to it. If it takes a few days, that's fine. Don't want to commit you to too much, because I don't know how many there are. So, let me see. The recording will be available tomorrow. Generally, it's around lunchtime. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And Pam and David, would you all like to wrap up with anything before we close?
No, just a big word of thanks for Pam. You know,
Oh.
we get to see each other usually a
Yeah.
couple times a week, you
Yeah.
know, that's in here, but I really appreciate you
Oh, you're very welcome.
being here with us
And-
today.
Always a pleasure. I really love being here at Maryville.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pam. As always, David, thanks, of course, as well. And thank you all for joining us. And we will see you again soon. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.